Nearly 60 years ago, Jeep introduced the Wagoneer nameplate to the States. Now back then it was designed to be a more premium offering in the family-friendly SUV segment. Now of course over the years the Wagoneer got bigger, it got more luxurious. Eventually Jeep introduced a Grand Wagoneer in the 80s, and a lot of you probably remember that vehicle for its wood panel siding. That was something that the vehicle was very popular for. However, for 2022 the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer is back, and it's back with a vengeance. After nearly 30 years being off the market, Jeep has finally brought the nameplate back. And as you can see, today I'm out here just outside of New York City with the all-new 2022 Jeep Grand Wagoneer. We're also going to be showing you a Wagoneer, but this is Jeep's new full-size truck-based luxury SUV designed to go head-to-head with vehicles like the Chevrolet Tahoe, the GMC Yukon, and even the Cadillac Escalade. So after nearly 3 long decades of being absent, has Jeep completely reinvented the segment with the all-new Grand Wagoneer? Stay tuned to find out. Hey guys, I want to interrupt this video for a special announcement. Now, did you know that 2 out of 3 guys will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time they're 35? The best way to prevent this is to do something about it while you still have the hair left. This is where our sponsor comes in, Keeps, because Keeps is designed to treat and prevent even more hair loss. Now, the best thing about Keeps is that a licensed doctor will review your information online in order to best determine the exact treatment plan that will work right for you. Once they've determined that, they'll actually ship the product discreetly to your home, and it'll be automatically renewed every 3 months, so you don't even have to think about it. Now, for those of you who are thinking Keeps is an expensive option, they actually offer a generic version of an FDA-approved drug designed to treat hair loss, which makes the product a lot more affordable. Now, prevention is the key, and Keeps treatments can take up to 4 to 6 months for individual results to show, which is why you need to start sooner in order to prevent even more hair loss. Now, I've been using Keeps for the last 1.5 years, and I have to say I'm really impressed with the overall progress of my hair. It's really come back in a much fuller way, and all I have to do is just take 1 small pill a day and use a mousse twice a day in my hair, or basically every time that I get out of the shower. Now, if you're ready to take action and prevent even more hair loss, please be sure to visit www.keeps.com/redline, where you can save up to 50% off of your first order. That's keeps.com/redline. And now let's get back to the video. So in case you guys are confused on the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer, this is not the difference between a Caravan and a Grand Caravan. You can see back there in the distance, those are the Wagoneer models. They are technically the lower end of the Wagoneer family. You can even get those with like an off-road package, but those are designed to be like a Suburban or a Tahoe. The Grand Wagoneer, which is the one I have right next to me, this is the one that's designed to go head-to-head with a Lincoln Navigator, a Cadillac Escalade. There are some subtle differences in the styling, but the 2 vehicles are the same size. So let's start, of course, with the front fascia of the Grand Wagoneer. You can see this one here is the Series 2. It's the mid-trim. Jeep will offer it in Series 1, Series 2, Obsidian, which is kind of like a Series 3 with a lot of black accents, and of course the top of the line Series 3. This Series 2 model has some unique styling elements to the interior, but you can also equip it with option packages that almost make it like a Series 3. You can see the design of the front fascia is very reminiscent of the Wagoneer concept that Jeep showed a couple of years ago. It's practically a carbon copy. Of course, you have the usual 7-slot grille. These are functional openings. The Grand Wagoneer actually places the Wagoneer badging from the hood into the actual grille. There's a lot of silver and chrome bits. The inner slats of the grille also have more chrome on the Grand Wagoneer. That's how you're going to know that this is the more luxury-oriented model. And all of them come standard with Jeep's full premium performance LED headlights. These are swiveling adaptive. You have LED daytime running lights, LED turn signals. The LED turn signals are even sequential, which gives it a nice premium look, especially when you see this vehicle out on the road with the turn signal running. And you can see you have these premium LED fog lights with their triple LEDs and some more chrome trim. Overall, I think the design looks pretty similar to the Grand Cherokee L that I just showed you guys. Some of you may like it, some of you may think it looks a little bit boring, but follow me around the side profile, because if you're also confused about the size, both of them are the same size. They both stretch at just under 215 inches long. For reference, that's 10 inches longer than the new Grand Cherokee L, and roughly about 5 inches longer than a Navigator and a Yukon. Now keep in mind, there's an XL version of the Yukon and a longer version of the Navigator. Those are another 10 inches longer than this vehicle, so Jeep has kind of positioned the size to be right in between. But as I stand next to this vehicle, you can see just how massive it is. This is based off of the Ram 1500 pickup truck. So it's a body-on-frame design with a fully independent air suspension on this particular one here. Now, the wheels, Jeep will offer a choice between an 18-inch wheel on the base end for a Wagoneer, all the way up to a 22-inch wheel on this particular one. You cannot get an 18 on the Grand Wagoneer, and as you can see, these are not off-road capable tires. In fact, the entire Wagoneer lineup is not trail rated, although you can get an off-road package. Jeep says the vehicle is just too big to be considered trail rated. But you can see with the 22s, you're riding on 285 with Goodyear tires. The air suspension allows this vehicle to rise up to 3.6 inches. So the base end will give you 8 inches of ground clearance, all the way up to around 10 inches of ground clearance. So in typical Jeep fashion, you can take it off-road, but it's a little bit of a big vehicle to where you'd want to do that comfortably. Now, of course, I want to point out the side profile because you'll notice the Grand Wagoneer has a two-tone roof. This is standard on the Grand Wagoneer, so you're going to be able to distinguish it on the side from a regular Wagoneer because of the two-tone. I actually like it with this bright white exterior, although I do think that Jeep should have painted the pillars here, the A pillar and the D pillar and the C pillar. They should have painted this black and kind of cut it off here because it kind of looks a little bit odd. The chrome here as well, you can see, is pretty bright. The Obsidian model will black out the chrome, and that should make it look a little bit nicer. For those of you who don't like all the chrome look, you can see this model here also includes power retractable running boards. That is included on the Grand Wagoneer. It's optional on the Wagoneer. That's going to help you get into the vehicle. This is with the suspension in its normal height right now, which gives you a little over 8 inches of ground clearance. Now, following me over to the rear, this is a controversial design element here, and I think this is probably the worst element of the Grand Wagoneer. I like it from the side and from the front, but you can see it's a very boxy shape. This massive rear window does not open and it doesn't slide down like you would find on some Toyota products, which I kind of wish it did, but you can see there's a lot of chrome. There's a massive Grand Wagoneer back here. There's, in fact, no Jeep badges on this vehicle. There's not a single Jeep badge even on the wheels. Instead, you find an American flag by the Wagoneer badge on the side and this massive Grand Wagoneer badge over here. And it even tells you which series, like this one is a Series 2. It says Series 2 right there. And then down here you can see no visible exhaust tips. However, on the Grand Wagoneer, you do have dual exhausts, which are pointed down. This one here is equipped with a 6.4 liter V8. My biggest surprise was the exhaust noise. Let me go ahead and fire it up so you can hear that engine. That right there sounds like American muscle. With an exhaust that sounds this good, I kind of wish Jeep had made it like a chrome outlet tip to make the exhaust appear a little bit more performance oriented. Now the taillights, you can see they're skinny, they're full LED. You also get a sequential LED turn signals at the back. This is kind of where I think it looks like this car has a big forehead. I'm not the biggest, fan of the styling, but let me know in the comments below what you guys think. In terms of the cargo capacity, Jeep says you have best in class in terms of cargo carrying abilities. A third row seat obviously is standard, 8 passenger seating is standard. It's available on the Grand Wagoneer because 7 passengers is standard when you get the captain's chairs, but with the third row seat up, you get around 27.5 cubic feet of space. 27.5 is massive. You can see this carry-on roller bag here fits just quite nicely. You could fit a few of them back here. There's actually a little bit of underfloor storage. If you lift up this really nice carpet over here and pull this up, you can see there's a little bit of underfloor storage, but some competitors I've seen offers a little bit more. If you want to fold down the third row, all you have to do is just push a button right here, and it's one touch. I really like how it's one touch. When you fold down the third row, Jeep says you get around 71 cubic feet of space, which is huge for the segment. If you fold down everything, the Grand Wagoneer will give you a maximum of 91 cubic feet of space. That is not quite as impressive as some of its competitors. However, that's because of the center console there that takes up space and the tri-pane 3-panel sunroof. The Wagoneers without the sunroof will have a maximum of 116 cubic feet of space, which is class leading, but you should also know that something like the Chevrolet Suburban will give you more space, but that's also because it's about a foot longer. So bringing back the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer is a really big deal. However, the interior is an area where a lot of consumers are going to focus at because this is supposed to be a premium vehicle. Jeep wants you to think of them as more of a luxury brand with this car. So obviously, let's take a look at the Grand Wagoneer's interior so I can show you guys all of the unique features of this vehicle. And it's going to be a long part because there's a lot of new features that they're offering on the Grand Wagoneer. Now, first of all, here's the key fob. You can see it is a slightly unique key fob for the Grand Wagoneer. It actually has some pretty nice materials. It's a good size. It also includes remote start on the fob. Jeep, for some reason, however, is not offering a phone as a key feature. That probably could come at a later time with an over-the-air update, something like that. But as you approach the vehicle, as you can see, Grand Wagoneer is spelled out, and it actually has a proximity sensor. You saw the side running board actually popped out because it knew I was coming toward it with the key. And as I open the door, you can see it's got a sensor on the back that opens up or unlocks the door for you. And my tester here with the bright white exterior color is complemented very nicely with the blue agave interior. This one is the Series 2. Like I mentioned, you can see it reminds you constantly that this is a Grand Wagoneer because this is where the seat controls would go. Instead, this lights up at night. It's a really nice detail. These are the upgraded Palermo leather seats, although it doesn't have the full diamond quilting that you get on the Series 3. It even reminds you Series 2. So this one here at around $95,000 to start certainly is no slouch. I love the flat bottom 2-spoke steering wheel that plays a homage to the original. And you can see here on the door panel, my tester has an optional $750 aluminum trim that replaces all the American walnut wood. I actually might prefer the walnut, but it looks good with the blue agave interior. Even the carpet you can see has the same blue agave, and it's actually a plush carpet. So Jeep really sweated the details here in the interior. Definitely feels nice. It feels very much on par with the last Cadillac Escalade that I tested. Now, as you can see, the nice step rail here and the grab handle, which is wrapped in leather. As I pull myself up into this interior, you can really get a sense that this vehicle is massive. It has so much room on the inside. It's so incredibly wide, and I can't even reach to the other side. This reminds me a lot of the Ram 1500 truck on which this vehicle is based. Now, the one thing it is missing is soft closed doors. So when I slam the door has a relatively solid sounding thunk. I actually think it's pretty much on par with the last Escalade that I drove. And the button to start the engine is in the usual spot. However, I want you to notice the button is actually raised, and it's actually stitched in leather. It's got some aluminum look trim here. This actually, Jeep says it's aluminum, but it feels like plastic to me. But this is a really cool detail. Kind of think it's unnecessary, but hey, Jeep wants you to know that they sweated the details here. Now, once you turn the vehicle on, you can see you are greeted with a wall of screens in this vehicle. There's a total of 4 screens in this vehicle right here. You've got a 12-inch display here in the Grand Wagoneer, another 12-inch display over here, a 7-inch display over here, and another 7-inch or 10-inch display over there on the passenger side. So all of this, of course, is going to give you a really, really impressive looking interior. My tester also has the rear view camera mirror. This is, of course, an option on the Grand Wagoneer, not available on the Wagoneer. And in terms of the materials, you have a lot of beautiful leather and wood. You have genuine leather with some contrasting stitching on the dashboard. You have leather on the door panels here with more of that aluminum trim. The seat controls you can see are all over here. You can adjust the massage function, and you can also adjust the massage from right here. So all of it, again, gives you a really nice place to, control everything. There's a huge command center here that allows you to do a lot of things here, which we'll go into that in just a moment. The steering wheel you can see is a power tilt and telescoping wheel, which is nice. The door panel has beautiful leather and aluminum grade trim and piano black that makes the door panel even feel special. It's even soft touch down here. The 23 speaker Macintosh stereo also sounds really good. This is the upgraded stereo that you get for $3,000. That's part of an option package that my tester has. It's standard on the Series 3. And you can see the seats, they adjust in 24 different ways, and they offer a massage. That's standard on the Grand Wagoneer, optional on the Wagoneer, and the Palermo leather. This is one of the softest material seats that I've ever tested. And the seats themselves are cushy and comfortable. You can even squeeze the bolsters and the seat bolster down here to give you a little bit more of a tighter fit. Now, coming over here, you can see this is the transmission selector. When you put the vehicle into reverse, it gives you obviously a full 360 camera, great resolution and graphics. This vehicle also has the ability to parallel park itself for you with the automatic park feature. That's all basically what you expect. And then down here you can see cup holders, great place to put your phone. There's a lockable touchpad storage available on the higher Series 3 model, but this one here you can see nice little hidden storage with your USB and USB-C. Opening this up, my tester has a nice cooler right here, which is an option. And actually, I've left it on for the 2-hour drive here, and the drinks are ice cold, which is a really nice feature. It does eat into the center console space, but that drink cooler is nice for families on a road trip. And if you guys are wondering, where's the wireless phone charging pad? Well, you push this little button right here, and that makes the screen pop up to reveal the wireless phone charging pad, and you can basically just put your phone right there, and it'll start charging it. There's also more USB-Cs and USB-A cables and a power outlet and HDMI port. And then when you're ready, just kind of hit the button here, and that screen will close up to hide whatever you want to hide in there, which is a really, really great feature. Now, of course, this has Uconnect 5. This is their latest system. It's up to 5 times faster than the old Uconnect 4 system. It also includes wireless over-the-air updates. It also includes wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, which is all great features to have. In terms of going back to the regular system, you can see it's got a really unique background where you can control everything here. You can even go into an off-road setting here, launch an off-road page. This wouldn't be a Jeep, of course, without that. Let's go back to the home page here, however, because as you can see, this is the dedicated home page where you can customize this to your liking if you'd like. You can kind of adjust the widgets around. Let's take a look at the embedded factory GPS. If you touch the nav system there, you can see it takes a second for it to load, but once it loads up, it's pretty quick, it's pretty responsive, it's snappy. The map display is pretty nice. It's nothing like as really cool as like Audi's Google Earth system, but it's pretty much a little bit nicer than the last Grand Cherokee that I tested. This screen is 12 inches, so it's a little bit larger on the Grand Wagoneer versus the Wagoneer. And if you'd like, this screen right here is customizable. I can put the map display over here as well. Although I will say that it's a little slow to load in the instrument panel screen. I do like how they offer the customization, but I couldn't really find a screen that really impressed me. I mean, this is probably the one that I would have it on most of the time, where it shows a speedo and attack, but you can also put your audio information over there. You can put an off-road page over there, and then you can put the GPS display here. I kind of wish they offered a little bit more customization and making where I can rearrange stuff in here to my liking, or offer a more traditional look to the gauge display, kind of what Mercedes does in the new GLS. Now the seats, as I mentioned, are heated and cooled. The touch controls are right here for the heated and cooled seat. They are a touch sensitive panel, and they're a little bit hard to see at times. You can see the heated steering wheel is also right here. It's a 3-level heated wheel. But they don't offer the haptic feedback, or at least my tester, maybe it has it turned off. It's just a little bit hard to see. That's something they could adjust. There's some traditional hard buttons here, of course, which is nice. You have like quad zone climate control in this vehicle, and the massaging function. Just come over here and push the on button. You can see it gives you 5 different types of massage with 3 different levels of intensity. It all works really well. These are some of the nicest massaging seats that I've tested, pretty much on par with the last Mercedes or BMW or Audi that I've tested, you know, with that option for it. Over here you can see this is your drive mode selector. It offers between a sport, it also has an auto, a snow, a sand and mud, and a rock mode. That's of course going to be linked to the air suspension, which you can control from this little separate dial over here. There is a low range transfer case in this vehicle that's part of the off-road, the upgraded 4-wheel drive system, and everything is all controlled down here. It can be a little overwhelming at times, especially since I don't have very much time with this vehicle. I'll have to wait to test it on another date where I can show you a more in-depth view of the infotainment system. But you can see all these different sources and widgets that you can kind of readjust. You can add as favorites, and you can even look at categories, and it'll kind of organize it for you. You have a dedicated volume knob and a tuning knob, which is nice. And then over here on the passenger screen, there's a little button right here that you can push that turns the screen on and off. If you notice, I can't even see the screen from this side. You have to actually be sitting on this side here, which allows you to access the Amazon Fire TV, the cameras. You can send GPS over to the separate screen over here. That's all really cool to have for the passenger screen. It's about a $1,200 upcharge to get that. Now, over here at the glove box, you can see it's actually a little bit small, the glove box, but it is damped and lined with felt. There could be a little bit more storage. I've seen some competitors offer a little bit more storage versus what Jeep has in the Grand Wagoneer. But overall, it's a pretty nice place to spend time. Above me, you can see really nice Alcantara headliner, massive tri-pane sunroof, which is part of an option package for $4,000 that really lets in a lot of light into this cabin. And of course, as you expect, there's plenty of LED lighting in here. You can also open and close the shades. A big mirror or sun visor, of course, with actual LED lighting. But overall, the cabin definitely impresses me. There is a huge wall of screens, a total of 45 inches of screen real estate in the front, so that kind of ups the Escalade, which only offers a mere 38 inches of curved OLED displays. So as the largest and most opulent vehicle that Jeep makes, you better believe the second row is going to coddle you with luxury and technology that essentially rivals the front seats. Now, first of all, these captain's chairs that I'm sitting in are standard, which means 7-passenger seating is standard. If you guys want 8-passenger, Jeep will sell you an 8-passenger version with a bench for a no-charge option, which is great to have. But obviously, as I get back here and get settled in, I'm 5'7", so I'm not the tallest person, but Jeep says there's 42 inches of legroom back here. 42 inches of legroom makes it more roomy versus the front seat. So this might be the best seat in the house, and you can even move these seats forward and back. As you can see, if I slide it all the way back, you can also recline the seat pretty far back, although I'm surprised the seat is not power adjustment, but I kind of appreciate how it's manual, so you can kind of fold the seats in and out. You also have heated and ventilated seats in the second row. You can see the actual seat controls are controlled from a little touch control over here. This is 10 inches back here, and you also have these 10-inch monitors. So there's a total of 30 inches of screens back here, which Jeep again says if you add up all the screens that this particular one has, there's a total of 75. You heard me right, 75 inches of total screen real estate. Now, of course, there's not a big 75-inch screen in here, but it's kind of how they get to that number, which is twice the amount of screens that you can find in the Cadillac Escalade, just to keep score here of numbers. Now, looking at the back seat here, this particular one has the rear seat entertainment package for $2,000. It includes the first ever application of Amazon Fire TV. So you can see here, just like an Apple TV, which I actually use Apple TV, you have your streaming services like YouTube, like Hulu, like Prime Video, like Netflix. It's all built into the vehicle, which is a great thing to have. So I know a lot of you probably have kids that have tablets and such. It's great to have it built in here. You have separate wireless headphone connections, and you can also connect it to an HDMI to, connect an external thing to the screen. And if you want, the whole family can watch a movie, and they can essentially play it through the 23-speaker Macintosh stereo system. It all works really well, and this is something that a lot of families, of course, are going to like. I also love this massive center console here, which mimics the front seats. You have a little bit of storage over here. You can see here's the remote control to control the screens if you guys think it's too troublesome to actually use the touchscreen interface. This over here allows you to control the climate control functions, which is basically all it does. And then over here you can see there's 2 USB ports and a USB-C, so a total of 4 USB ports and an actual 115 volt power outlet and a 12 volt, which is nice. When I open this up, you can see big, deep center console storage. The refrigerator from the front is not over here, but this is a nice area where you could store the wireless headphones and whatnot. And overall, I love the materials. You have same high quality materials, the Alcantara headliner, soft leather all over the doors, metal speaker covers, and you can see manual rear window sunshades, although I'm surprised these aren't power. Some competitors do a power rear sunshade, but there's just a lot of premium materials back here. So the second row is pretty much as nice, if not nicer, versus the front row. But what about the third row? Getting back into the third row, there's different options, but obviously with the center console, you can't get back there. Jeep instead gives you just a really quick release here. You just pull this right here, and when that's not in the way, you can see that folds it down, and then there's another strap here. Take two, there's a button over here on the seat back. You push that and you can see that's a lot easier. The handle that I pulled here is for folding the seat down, but you can see it reveals a lot of space to get into the third row. And when you get into the third row, this is where things are pretty cool. There is a total of 36.5 inches of legroom back here. 36.5 inches of legroom is comparable to something like a Honda Civic. This has as much legroom in the third row as a Honda Civic does in its back seat. And you can see the floor is nice and low. The bench is pretty high up. It's nice and wide, so you can fit 3 people across. I can literally get comfortable and cross my legs back here. And this is with the seat pretty much all the way back in the second row. So this is wonderful. Now, of course, Jeep didn't also skimp in terms of materials back here. Short of just putting a nice folding armrest back here, the seats are also covered in beautifully soft Palermo leather. You also have stitching, padded stitching right here where your elbows would rest, and a cup holder, and you can also make the seat power recline. There's 2 USB charging ports over here, rear seat air vents, your own little sunroof back here from the tri-pane sunroof that lets in a lot of light. This is great for people who get car sick, who need that light. And you also have these massive windows that let in a lot of light. So the third row is definitely no penalty box. You could easily fit adults back here, and you could even fit 3 people across. So if you're looking for one of the largest back seats, this is even more spacious than the last Cadillac Escalade and Lincoln Navigator that I tested. So the vehicle is massive and capable as the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer. You're probably wondering what's powering these big trucks. Well, the Wagoneer will come standard with the company's 5.7-liter Hemi V8 with their multi-displacement system, cylinder deactivation, and their e-torque mild hybrid system, which should improve the fuel economy. That makes 392 horsepower and 404 pound-feet of torque. It all goes out through an 8-speed automatic. Rear or four-wheel drive is available. Now, the Grand Wagoneers, they're pretty simple. You come with just one engine. This is the upgraded 6.4-liter naturally aspirated Hemi V8. So this is technically the same motor that you find in like a Durango SRT or the Rubicon Jeep Wrangler 392. This motor is an SRT tuned motor, but of course they've retuned it for luxury car duty. It makes 471 horsepower, which Jeep will say is the most in the segment. This is more powerful than the twin-turbo Navigator and the 6.2 Escalade, and you also get 455 pound-feet of torque. The torque figure is actually the lowest by 5 pound-feet compared to an Escalade with the 6.2. It all goes out through an 8-speed automatic. For now, all Grand Wagoneers will be standard with four-wheel drive. Jeep says at a later date they will introduce a rear-drive version of the Grand Wagoneer, but right now you can only get 4-wheel drive. Like I mentioned earlier, 8-speed automatic. The big thing about the Grand Wagoneer and Wagoneer is it'll tow a maximum of 10,000 pounds. That's the most in the segment, although the Grand Wagoneer does around 9,850 pounds, so still very high. And fuel economy, this is where the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer is a little bit lagging, although the Wagoneer with the 5.7 will get up to 1622. This one here is a little bit thirstier because it doesn't have the mild hybrid system. It's rated at 13 in the city, 18 on the highway, which is pretty thirsty even by big SUV standards. As this one sits, the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer is heavy. They started around 5,900 pounds, but the Grand Wagoneer weighs in at around 6,420 pounds. All right, so now we are driving the most expensive and largest vehicle that Stellantis or FCA has ever built, the all-new 2022 Grand Wagoneer. We're starting off in the Grand Wagoneer, and remember, this is supposed to be the more luxury-oriented model. It's not any bigger, so don't think Caravan versus Grand Caravan. And to show you guys just how big this vehicle is, my editor is sitting shotgun here, but you probably can't see him. He's got to lean over and wave because this vehicle is 83.6 inches wide. It's about 5 inches wider than the Grand Cherokee L. And remember, because it's built off of the Ram 1500 platform, you feel like you're driving a truck. I feel like I'm driving something that's big, which is funny because the Jeep guy said that this vehicle is the smallest big vehicle you'll drive. I don't know if I agree with that. It definitely feels big. It doesn't feel cumbersome to drive, but you get a sense that you're driving a competitor to a Yukon, an Escalade, a Navigator. You sit up nice and high, you have this commanding view of the road, but what Jeep has done here with the new Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer is delivered a car that also gives you all the creature comforts and luxury. I mean, I'm sitting here on these Palermo leather seats, although this is not the Series 3, it's the Series 2, so you don't have the diamond quilted ones, but they're still very nice. I'm getting a massage. You have the two front seats that have massage. They're heated and cooled seats. You have all of these screen real estate here, and I want to actually ask my editor because the passenger screen is an option for $1,200 that this one has, and you can essentially control a couple of things in here. So you turn it on by pushing a button right there, and Rob will basically show you that you can control the function as a co-pilot. So if there's directions, he can send it over my way. You can also look at the cameras, the surround view cameras, the backup camera, the interior fam cam, and you can also control the Amazon Fire TV. So that screen essentially has 3 to 4 different functions, and it allows the passenger to kind of get in on the action. And it's a really cool system. There's a total of 45 inches of screens at the front because there's a total of 4 displays here. Actually, there's probably 6 if you include the rear view camera and the heads-up display. So it's all really, really cool stuff. And the other thing that also this vehicle has is their full active suite of driver assistance tech. So I can put on the adaptive cruise control here. It'll actually keep in the lane.
Exit right.
It doesn't actually change lanes for me though. Like some of the systems that I've tried will change lanes for you. This one does not. But Jeep says a completely hands-free driving assist function is coming at a later date. That's going to be similar to Cadillac's Super Cruise and Ford's Blue Cruise system. But for now, you just have the adaptive cruise control with full speed range. You have active lane keep assist, automatic emergency braking, blind spot collision assist, all that stuff. That is mostly standard, although on the very base ends of the Wagoneer, it is part of a package to get like the rear cross traffic collision assist. But it's nice that Jeep makes it as standard. Some of the other brands, like Cadillac, still makes you pay extra for on the Escalade to get their adaptive cruise. The Super Cruise is an even additional extra. But we're gonna exit off the highway here because we're on our way to the lunch spot. And the Wagoneer, or the Grand Wagoneer, comes with the company's 6.4 liter 392 Hemi V8. This does not have the mild hybrid e-torque system. Because of that, the fuel economy isn't wonderful. I'll have to retest the gas mileage at a later date. But when you put your foot down here, you can feel she's got a good power. And it has a good sound. I mean, obviously Jeep had to tune this exhaust to be a little bit less intrusive versus like a Durango 392 or a Durango SRT. But it definitely has enough power. This has the most horsepower in the segment at 471, but it also has the least amount of torque at 455 by like 5 pound-feet compared to the Escalade, and around 50 or 45 pound-feet compared to a Navigator. You have that standard 8-speed automatic. You can see there's another journalist in front of us who is driving a Grand Wagoneer. You can see how big this car is. I don't particularly like the way it looks in black, but you can see it's got sequential turn signals, which is really nice. And a really square body. Now, some of you have mentioned the styling of this car could be better. I kind of agree. It doesn't look all that great in black. This particular one that I'm driving is the white with the two-tone. It looks a lot better. But, whew. Interesting. All right, this is definitely quick. Yeah, well, Jeep says 0 to 60 in 6 seconds. I'll have to strap on my equipment when I have this vehicle for a later time to test it, but it's fast. It's got a quick shifting 8-speed. This feels a lot quicker than the last Escalade that I drove with the 6.2 liter V8 and 10-speed auto, so Jeep did a great job. Now, there are different drive modes. I'm going to actually put it into sport right now. When you put it into sport, the air suspension, the Quadra Lift air suspension, will lower about 0.6 inches to put you into like an aero mode. This is, of course, designed to get better gas mileage. There's also an active front splitter at the front, which will lower itself to kind of, again, improve the aerodynamics of this truck. And obviously, this is a 6,400-pound beast. It's a brick, so it's not going to get the best gas mileage, but it's nice that Jeep is at least including that. Keep in mind, you guys should go for the regular Wagoneer with the 5.7 mild hybrid e-torque system. The 6.4 just doesn't have that. Now, in sport mode over here, I want to talk about the handling a little bit because I noticed that the suspension, it hunkers down a little bit, the steering gets a little bit heavier. You have a fully independent suspension, which is something they designed exclusively for the Wagoneer because we have the Ram 1500's frame with that independent multi-link suspension and double wishbones in the front. And I kind of see what Jeep was talking about. It doesn't feel quite as big as it could, but you always get a sense that it's big because it's so wide. You have this massive hood bulge that reminds you again that you're driving a vehicle that is big. But this is about comparable to the last Escalade I drove in terms of, you know, the handling, the feel of the vehicle. What I really love about this car is the two-spoke wheel. The two-spoke wheel is playing homage to the original Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer, and it's just nice how it's a flat bottom. There's a really great spot here where you can rest your hand when you're just cruising along. This is designed to be a cruiser. It's got an amazing ride quality. It's really comfortable, even in sport. It's really quiet in here. And the visibility is also nice because you're driving a brick that has big side windows, big mirrors, all the driver assistance tech, and all the leather and wood. Although my tester here has the aluminum trim that replaces the wood for $750. It kind of goes well with this blue agave interior, but I think I would probably prefer the walnut trim because that's kind of trace its roots back to the original Grand Wagoneer, which had the wood paneling. Obviously, some of you are probably upset there's no wood paneling, but I'm kind of glad that it didn't come back because that should stay in the 80s and 90s. I don't think that wood paneling should make it back onto a modern car. There's an interesting noise when it shifts, almost like a whoosh noise, like a turbo, but it's naturally aspirated. But the transmission is quick and snappy, although the shifts are a little harsh in sport mode. There is a manual mode here where you can access it through this area right here on the steering wheel. And it does a pretty good job, although I kind of wish they just given me paddles instead. You can feel the whole vehicle buck down. Wow, this thing has a lot of power. I'm very impressed. I like the 6.4. It's a great engine in SRT products, and I'm really glad that Jeep put it in the Grand Wagoneer. I mean, obviously, it's not going to get the best gas mileage, but who cares? If you can spend $100,000, which this one here is over $100,000, you can afford to get 13, 18 mpg in real-world driving because of how big this car is. But overall, I'm very impressed with how this vehicle drives. But overall, on the road, this is one of the nicest driving of the large SUVs, one of the most comfortable, and you get a sense that you're driving something that's massive, although on the outside, it really doesn't look that way. Now, earlier this summer, when I spent some time with the all-new Jeep Grand Cherokee L in Michigan, I proclaimed it to be a very impressive three-row family SUV that actually felt a lot more like a luxury SUV. However, without even spending some time with the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer, I kind of was thinking, what's the point? A lot of you have said the same thing. Why does Jeep have two three-row family SUVs in their lineup? However, after spending some time with the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer outside of New York, there are distinct differences between the vehicle because, as I mentioned earlier, this is built off of the Ram 1500 platform. So this is a body-on-frame vehicle, unlike the Grand Cherokee L, which is a unibody that's built off of a Stelvio platform. This vehicle here, because of its truck-based design, feels a lot more like a truck out on the road. It still drives very nicely. However, from the driving position you saw, it gives you a nice commanding view of the road. That 6.4 liter V8 in the Grand Wagoneer gives it a lot of power. In fact, SRT levels of power, and the interior offers a lot more interior space, especially in the second and third row, and even more tech. This is one of the most impressive new tech vehicles that you can find, and it also gives you S-Class levels of luxury on the inside. I'm really impressed because Jeep is not typically known as a luxury brand, but with the Grand Wagoneer, this can easily go toe-to-toe with the latest version of the Cadillac Escalade. and of course the Lincoln Navigator. It all comes down to the pricing of this vehicle because the Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer are certainly a lot more expensive. The Wagoneer starts at around $58,000 plus destination, so you're really looking at just under $60,000. The Grand Wagoneer is going to start at around $87,000, which is $30,000 more versus the Wagoneer. Now, of course, that's for a Series 1, which is a later availability. This Series 2 model that I'm driving stickers for around $94,000 to start, and of course, with the option packages that it has, the pano sunroof, the tri-pane sunroof, the upgraded passenger display, you're really looking at an as-tested price of around $105,000, just under $105,000. So this is a lot of money, of course, for a Jeep, but it's pretty much in line with the latest versions of the Escalade and the Navigator. Just keep in mind, the Jeep is not going to get quite as good a gas mileage. The Escalade offers a diesel version. This here does not offer anything like that, but Jeep does promise a 4xe version, so we should be seeing electrified options of this vehicle coming in the next couple of years, although I really hope that Jeep delivers them soon, because even though the 6.4, I love the performance, in this segment, electrification is starting to pop up, and it would be nice to see a 4xe version of this truck show up in the near future. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2022 Jeep Wagoneer and Grand Wagoneer. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.